Let's share with you what the big stories are making headlines across Nigeria today. We're going to be kicking off on the Daily Times newspapers. And it should be on your screen in just a second. Yes, it says there, identify yourself to Nigerians and the world now. Peter Obi challenges Nigeria's President Tinubu. Identify yourself, basically. It says there, uninformed outsiders now see every Nigerian as a potential fraudster, forger, and ID thief. President cannot outsource defense as sensitive on sensitive personal matters, says public office makes holders a life of public interest. Also on the Daily Time this morning, why Nigeria must prioritize investment on infrastructure, says Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Dambata's second term in NCC cut short as Maida replaces him as the federal government names new CEOs, additional presidential aides. I think I'll just share on the main story there in the Daily Times where it says, first of all, public office makes holders life of public interest, and the president cannot outsource defense on sensitive personal matter. I'm not the only one. I think a lot of people agree with that particular point from Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate, that President Tinubu, in the wake of all of these controversies and these things that have plagued and basically defined his first few, weeks, months of being Nigeria's president, cannot really just let, media aides and spokespersons and fans and friends of the family to be the ones addressing these things. There's seemingly too much of controversy around these certifications and the allegations of forgery that I believe that Nigerians would really like that he speaks to and, comes out to really address Nigerians on these things. Yes, I agree. It's a case currently in court, and the Supreme Court, of course, will have its say on the matter at some point. But having just spokespersons, giving varying excuses every other week, from some saying, just let it be, don't truncate Nigeria's democracy, don't, what's the other one now about?
Don't stir up the polity.
Yeah, exactly. Don't stir up the polity and all of that. To the ones who say that, third-party vendors could offer certificates, even if the position pretty much says otherwise. And, the position, of course, also mentions that the certificate was never picked up, from them. So there's just many, many things that need to be answered. And I think it will be important that the president speaks to Nigerians and says what exact truth is at a time like this. Like our previous guest had said, we dealt with these things in 2015. If you remember very well, that President Muhammadu Buhari was accused of not having his, WAEC certificate. It took a while, weeks, maybe even months, and then one of the most embarrassing things, that has ever happened in Nigeria's political history, where, not INEC now, WAEC head went to Osarogie to give the president his WAEC certificate. And Nigeria's president, the president of the largest, most populous black nation in the world, the giant of Africa, was, smiling and taking pictures and in celebratory mood that his WAEC, and I'm talking about West African Examination Council certificates. We moved away from that, and this is where we currently are. So it's not the very best times, in that regard. But yes, I agree with that. These are the stories on the Daily Times. Let's move to the Daily Independent next.
All right, to the Daily Independent front page there says ASU opposes private universities getting federal government intervention. Now, this is a very, very serious case to discuss, especially now that we live in precarious times. ASU is opposing private universities. Now, you do remember that the federal government has said that it will pay teachers. President Tinubu came out a few weeks ago and said that teachers will receive an increase in salaries. Now, ASU as a body and other teachers did come out to say there's no such thing. That's not a problem. And this adds to the situation that we've been talking about in line with what we discussed a few times here on the program and other programs and not just News Central, but of course the media, that if information is concrete, then it should actually be passed and made clear. So now ASU is opposing private universities. So it seems like it's just those who own private universities that will get intervention funds. What happened to the government-owned universities?
Yeah.
They're not going to get intervention funds as well. So we're starting to see a head-on collision in front, and it's not going to look good, no doubt. So while the economy is struggling, each sector is also faced with its own challenges. I mean, what's good for Mr. A should be good for Mr. B. But anyway, you can read all about that story inside of Daily Independent. Ondo CJ declines raising impeachment panel on deputy governor. Page 7 has that story. Okay. Man asks federal government to overtake binding constraints limiting production. Page 26. Niger military rulers order UN official out within 72 hours. Now, don't forget, they are told the French soldiers, to leave, which stirred a conversation between Emmanuel Macron, who said it is impossible for them to do so. They said, it's our land, you have to leave. And now they're focused on UN. Read up page 7. Tinubu appoints new CEOs for NCC, NIPOS and others. Page 7 has that story. Lagos begins demolition of buildings on drainage setbacks in Lekki. I absolutely agree to this. 150% if it's anything like that. So many buildings you see that's caused flooding here and there. They're built on drainages. Not just that, in short, canals and all that. Anyway, let's take a few more quickly. PDP governors Lawan decry harmful practices against girl child. Page 6. Umahi warns contractors sabotaging concrete road design, gives them 14 days to mobilize the site or face the axe. Umahi is a talk and do. You know what I mean. Anyway, no evidence. Tinubu forged Chicago State University record, BBC says. And then we'll take this last one. Tinubu certificate sagas hurts Nigeria's image abroad, according to Peter Obi. Task him to come clean on his true identity. President does not have identity problem, says APC. And then I stumbled on this question. Someone asked, and it's a very vital question, Osarogie. When the APC responded yesterday, President does not have identity problem. I mean, a few journalists were asking some questions, and one of the questions was, if the president does not have identity problems, it's so easy for him to just come out and carry out a press conference and say, listen, let's put this whole thing to an end.
Yeah.
Or where is Ajurin Galale, who should come out and say, listen, with me here are the documents. I'm live on News Central. Document 1, this is it. Document 2, this is it. Truly certified. And then lastly, one of the questions asked, why is it that CSU cannot provide the yearbook
Exactly.
of students with their pictures?
1979.
Yes, yearbook. Why can't they provide the student's ID? Of which I know you have your ID from school. I had mine. I mean, for those who also schooled abroad.
I mean, there might be the argument
ID.
that maybe in 1979 they had a different, way of documenting students. There's also the conversation about, the transcript, which is,
Okay.
according to.
Okay, so let's also say this, that those who also schooled at that time
Yeah,
in the
there has to be
United
one
States
person who, yes, I agree.
have also said that they had a different type of certificate
Yes.
that they were issued, and they had their school diary books that you would always find in the library for record purposes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation.
There's
here
a lot
and
of
there.
things,
It's a bit confusing.
and one more thing, yes, I understand how these things may not matter, in the build up to, being president, in Nigeria, because, well, you don't necessarily need to have a PhD or a master's. But when anybody who argues that these are irrelevant questions, maybe just doesn't want the best for Nigeria. Because these are questions that would be asked over and over and over in the search of the best quality of person to lead Nigeria. And I don't think that any of the persons who are making these arguments can boldly say that they do not have a recollection of their primary school or their secondary school classmates. Anybody who is arguing today that these, conversations are irrelevant. I did see one of the interviews you guys had a couple of days ago where the guest was saying that these are invalid questions. I remember that. But I'm sure that even him who made that statement remembers his primary and his secondary school, remembers his classmates, remembers the people that he went to school with, remembers, every single detail of growing up, including his universities. And so it is difficult to understand why the president of Nigeria doesn't have 5, 6, 12, 13, 20 people that can say, oh, we went to school with this person. He was our classmate back then. Yes, during the war, maybe when he was on exile, his documents were stolen and all of that. But, all 30 of us here all went to, the same school with this person and we remember him. And yes, the Government College Lagos controversy, the part where 1979 has been taken out of the 1979 yearbook has been taken out of Chicago State University's website. There's just too many questions, and these things cannot just be irrelevant or be pushed aside. It would be a lot easier if the president or if his team was able to give a clear-cut explanation as to these things that would shut the naysayers up. That's what I want. Shut the naysayers up. Tell them to keep quiet because you have facts and you have documents and you have undeniable proof that what the president submitted was not forged. And what the president submitted was exactly what was given to him by Chicago State University or by the vendor. And if you remember, the Chicago State University didn't, necessarily say that, you can use any vendor in Ikorodu. You still have to apply through them, before you get the vendor to print a certificate for you. I wouldn't go and print my white certificate now by myself, with just by going to, down Tinubu here to go and print white certificate. No, I have to go through WAEC. Anyway, these are the issues. Let's move away from the Daily Independent now. Let's see what we can find on the Punch newspapers. Comes up next. It says there, Atiku will be protest as BBC fact checkers clear Tinubu. Well, not just both of them. It's many other the niche newspapers like we mentioned this morning. Fisayo Shiombo also. I did see that he. I don't remember the name of their website. Did put out also response to the BBC's fact check, and I'm still asking, how important is the BBC's document, and why is it being given this much attention in the Nigerian media space? I'm not certain how important it is. But the BBC says the document confirms President CSU's diploma, APC carpets Atiku and Obi. PDP Labour Party tackle Tinubu says certificate issued tarnishing the nation's image. Oh wow. Lower inflation protects poor citizens, IMF tells Nigeria. Also, EFCC recovers 27 billion naira, $19 million, probes ex-governors and ex-ministers. My question, and I'm sorry, the same question was, will anybody go to jail?
And who?
And who exactly are these people that we're speaking about? Who will go to jail for these things that were stolen? Who will go to jail for, even if it's just turning the other way while money was being stolen by these people who have immunity? And it's a thing with fighting corruption. If you are a country that is serious about fighting corruption, right from the core, in every single government house where these crimes were committed, where monies were diverted, where loans were taken that were meant to be used to build infrastructure in the state, but they were diverted to different accounts here and there. It's not just the governor, and I don't enjoy how we belittle the conversation on fighting corruption. It's not just the governor that should be mentioned in these things. It's not just, oh, this governor is accused of misappropriating 11 billion naira when he was, governor of the state. It's not just the governor. And the EFCC and the Auditor General of every state, if they're a serious group of people, should know that the governor didn't go to the bank and pack 19 billion, for example, and take it to his, account in the Cayman Islands or whichever place he took it to. The governor didn't, send money from, the government house official account to his private account or to, his cronies account. There's somebody in government house. There's somebody in the whole spectrum of things that looked this way when the money was being taken, that looked this way when papers were being falsified, and that looked this way or even assisted with falsifying those documents to enable that money be diverted. There are people who have helped the governor to apply for, I'm using governor as an example, it could be anybody. There are people who help the governor to apply for those loans, knowing fully well that that money will be diverted to other means. There are people who saw that the price of cement and the price of fixing a 10-kilometer road was inflated, 50 times more than it should have. They looked the other way, they assisted. every single person in these details here and there should be charged with a crime and should be jailed. But we belittle the conversation and play politics with it and say, oh, this governor, who is a former PDP governor, former APC governor, is accused of so and so. And that's how those monies are never recovered. The people who are responsible for those things never go to jail, and we never fight corruption.
You know, Osarogie, is like setting a precedence for what's coming. Because one thing we need to understand is Nigeria has a high population of youths, one of the highest. And what that means is in years to come, you would have youths who will fill up these seats. What are they learning now? We saw what happened with Misoma and how everybody jumped on it and said, oh, no, you can't. You know, I was appalled at how, you know, morality was all of a sudden hanging, not by a thread, but of course, well hung with a hanger and stuck into the case. Because everyone was simply saying, this is how it should be. And all of a sudden, wow, really? You know, the truth is, the next generation coming, we all know these things. And at some point, I got worried when a statement was made via analysis, you know, with a few persons, and they said, it's like you don't thrive until you are corrupt. And how true is that?
I mean, because Nigeria continues to reward.
That's it, because there's a reward for being that way, and very less a reward for doing the right thing. Yeah. So I get your point.
All right, just to quickly wrap up on the punch this morning, Air Force launches new aircraft that awaits attack helicopters. Oneza hails Igboho's release, asks Tinubu to free Nnamdi Kanu. Lagos demolishes structures obstructing drainages. Joe Hanson spoke about that in the Daily Independent. Diphtheria kills 619 states. NPHCDA recommends face masks. And, you know, I remember in our last diphtheria conversation, I asked, you know, at what point is it going to be a national emergency? Because 600 Nigerian lives at this point, it probably should be.
Shouldn't it be now? Oh. It should. All right.
Those are the stories on the punch.
All right. So we're done with the punch now, and we've taken a look at some of the biggest stories on the front pages there from the Daily Times, the Daily Independent, the Punch. Let's see if we have a little more time or to check out what we have on Daily Trust. Let's see what Daily Trust has for us quickly. Daily Trust says, come clean on your identity crisis. Obi tells Tinubu APC warns against contempt. Stop financing budget with CBN loans. IMF tells federal government, stop financing budget with CBN loans. IMF tells federal government. And by the way, there was a story of the embattled CBN governor, past CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, returning some funds. We haven't heard the end. And there was to be an investigation. Yeah. And we were told we will get the report very soon. So Nigerians are still waiting for this investigation to take place and so on. But then again, President appoints Maeda NCC CEO, replaces 9 posts and the others. The big one there on the front page, Tinubu yet to reconvene. FEC 44 days after inaugural meeting. Council meetings important to address current challenges, CSOs. Tinubu Shetima on 23-day foreign trips in September. President has different idea of FEC functions. Aide says ministerial retreat delaying cabinet meeting according to source. You know, a lot is really going on. A whole lot is really going on, and I think this is the time where we need that communication. Yeah. We did see the SSA. I mean, sorry, we have to go back to him because he was always the one at the forefront speaking, talking about the jury. He was always out, you know, quelling information, giving updates. Possibly this is the time we need that. You can see the pictures on the front page there. 2 ladies at the bottom. I was watching their video this morning. It's appalling. It's my goodness. You will be shocked. I'm sure you get more details in the news. Over 600 died of diphtheria. That's another story. I mean, just bringing it back and so on. But then again, Daily Trust is loaded. So is The Punch, Daily Independent, and Daily Times. All the papers are indeed loaded. Yeah.
All right. These are the major stories making headlines across Nigeria and these 4 newspapers. Grab a copy, or you may also want to, see other newspapers and see if there's more information. But that's all we have for now.